My name is Ethan Ward, and I was 24 years old when I heard them laugh behind my back and knew they meant every word. It was supposed to be the beginning of something. My first full-time job after college, a graphic design position at a small but up-and-coming creative agency in Chicago. That's what they called it anyway. Up and coming. But after 6 months of low pay, unpaid overtime, and coffee runs I was never hired to make, it became clear. They didn't see me as a designer. They saw me as furniture. They liked my ideas when someone else pitched them. They liked my work when they could slap someone else's name on it. But me? I was invisible until the day I quit. It happened on a Tuesday. The air outside was freezing, but the conference room was even colder. We were reviewing pitches for a new client, a fashion brand with $1 million contract. I'd spent 3 nights working on the concept. No sleep, no credit. I watched the creative director, Mark, present my exact pitch, word for word, like it was his. When I raised my hand to speak, he didn't even look up. "Let's stay focused," he said. "We don't need side notes." Side notes? That's what I was, a footnote in my own work. So I stood, quietly, picked up my sketchbook, my laptop, and walked toward the door. That's when someone behind me said it, just loud enough for the room to hear. Guess he finally figured it out. "Good luck out there, genius." Then the laughter came. Short, sharp, unmistakable. The kind of laugh that doesn't come from humor. It comes from doubt, from mockery, from people who never expected you to matter. I didn't turn around, didn't say a word. I just kept walking. Because deep down, I knew something they didn't. They had the last laugh, but I would have the last word. The day after I quit, I didn't wake up to an alarm. No emails, no meetings, no fake smiles across fluorescent-lit desks, just silence. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel tired. I didn't have a plan, no backup job, no startup capital, just a rented studio apartment, a stack of unpaid student loans, and a laptop that ran hot if I opened more than 3 tabs. But I also had something else. Freedom. And the clarity that comes when you finally stop asking for permission to matter. For the first week, I didn't do much. Just walked the city. Watched people rush from train stations to offices, faces blank, earbuds in, already half gone before the day had even started. That used to be me. Now I felt like a ghost, watching a life I'd barely escaped. Everyone kept asking the same thing. What's next? My old classmates, my parents, even the barista at the coffee shop down the block. I gave them all the same answer. I don't know, because I didn't. But I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to spend the next 40 years building someone else's name. Didn't want to water down my ideas so they could fit inside someone else's box. I didn't want to settle. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I didn't need a boss. Maybe I just needed to bet on myself. It sounds dramatic, I know, like something you'd read on a motivational poster. But when you've been invisible long enough, choosing to be seen, even by yourself, is a radical act. I started small, designed logos for local businesses, offered social media graphics for $50 on freelance sites. Most nights, I worked until 3 a.m. No applause, no team, just me, a desk, and the quiet glow of the screen. And still, I didn't feel alone. Not really. Because for the first time in my life, every late night, every sketch, every second, it counted. Not for a company. For me. I knew the path ahead would be hard, uncertain, unforgiving. But I didn't want easy anymore. I wanted mine. So I walked alone, and I never looked back. No one tells you that chasing your dream feels a lot like failing at first. The first year was hell. Not dramatic, movie scene hell. The quiet kind, where you sit in the dark staring at your bank balance and wonder if you've made the biggest mistake of your life. By month 3, my savings were gone. Rent was late. Twice. I lived off instant noodles, black coffee, and the kind of stubborn pride that won't let you ask your parents for help. I told them everything was fine. They wanted to believe me. I wanted to believe me. Some nights I stared at the ceiling for hours, hoping for some kind of sign, a breakthrough, a call, anything. But nothing came, just the soft hum of the fridge and the weight of choices I couldn't undo. I worked constantly, but the money barely trickled in. Most clients wanted fast turnarounds for bargain rates. They asked for revisions that made no sense, ghosted me after delivery, or forgot to pay. I smiled through emails, said, "Of course," when I wanted to scream. One night, I got an email from an old classmate, now working at a big agency in New York. He said, "I heard you went freelance." Brave move. Let me know when you're ready to come back to the real world. I didn't reply, not because I didn't want to, but because part of me wondered if he was right. Was I delusional? Stubborn? Lost? I looked at job listings more than once, had a resume drafted, even hovered over the apply button more times than I'll admit. But I couldn't do it, because every time I thought about going back, I saw that room again, that laughter, that smirk, and I knew I'd rather fail on my terms than succeed on theirs. So I stayed the course, not because it was easy, but because I had to know what would happen if I didn't quit. And that, right there, was the turning point. Not a big win, not some viral moment, just a quiet, brutal decision to keep going, even when nothing made sense, even when I was tired, broke, and invisible. Especially then. The email came at 2 a.m. I was awake, because I was always awake back then. 3 hours earlier, I'd finished a logo revision for a bakery in Portland that probably wouldn't pay me. Again. I was tired, drained, on the edge of quitting. Again. I had been refreshing my inbox out of habit, not expectation. But there it was. Subject line. Branding proposal. Let's talk. I almost didn't open it. I'd been ghosted too many times by messages like that. But something felt different. A woman named Alana ran a small wellness startup. She'd seen a flyer I designed for another client, one of the few who actually paid and referred me without being asked. Alana wanted a brand package: logo, colors, font system, site layout. And she didn't want it fast and cheap. She wanted it done right. I reread her message 4 times before replying. That one email became a 40-minute Zoom call the next day. I still remember how she said, "I want to build something that lasts. I need someone who cares." And I did care, probably more than I should have. I undercharged her, way under. But she insisted on adding a tip at the end, said I deserved it. I stared at the payment notification when it came through. $1,250. It wasn't life-changing, but at that moment, it felt like $1 million. Not because of the money, but because someone saw me, really saw me. She didn't ask for 12 versions. She didn't disappear halfway through. She trusted me to lead, to decide. That project changed something in me. I worked like I had something to prove, because I did. I poured every ounce of focus into making it perfect. Clean, balanced, thoughtful. Not just pretty, strategic. When the final files were delivered, Alana replied with 6 words. This is exactly what I wanted. No revisions, no back and forth, just gratitude. She posted about the launch on LinkedIn, tagged me, said, if anyone needs branding that speaks, talk to Ethan Ward. 2 days later, I had 5 inquiries in my inbox, small projects, but real ones. For the first time in over a year, I wasn't chasing work. It was coming to me. It wasn't luck. It wasn't viral. It was quiet. Earned. Deserved. And for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe. Maybe I could actually do this. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe this was the start. It didn't happen all at once. There was no viral post, no lucky break, no millionaire client who changed everything overnight. But brick by brick, it built. Quietly. Steadily. Until one day, I realized I wasn't invisible anymore. After Alana's project, something shifted. People started introducing me by name, not just a designer friend. Clients started asking what I thought, and then listening. And slowly, my work stopped being something I did. It became who I was. I reworked my portfolio, deleted everything that didn't represent the kind of designer I wanted to be. No more bargain bin gigs, no more just a quick flyer. I defined my process, set boundaries, and, for the first time, priced based on value, not desperation. Was it scary? Yes. Every time I quoted a rate that made me sweat, I waited for them to laugh, to say, never mind. But more often than not, they said yes. Because confidence, I learned, is contagious. I started sharing my work online, not to go viral, but to speak, to tell stories, to explain the why behind the design. People paid attention. Comments turned into messages, messages into referrals, referrals into contracts. In month 14, I landed my first retainer client, a health brand based out of Denver. Steady work, reliable pay, enough to finally exhale. That same month, a recruiter from the same agency I had walked out of, Pinehurst and Lennox, reached out. We're expanding our creative team. Your portfolio's impressive. Any interest? I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because for the first time I didn't need their validation. They had become irrelevant. I had become unignorable. Not by shouting, not by begging, but by building, by outlasting, by proving day after day that I wasn't some side note in someone else's story. I was the author of my own, and I was just getting started. By year 2, something strange began to happen. The same people who once laughed, they stopped talking. No more backhanded messages, no passive-aggressive job offers, no real-world warnings from people who had never risked anything in their lives. Just silence. At first I thought it was a fluke. Maybe they moved on. Maybe they'd forgotten me. But then I saw it, the profile views, the quiet follows, the random likes on my posts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. They were watching. Not openly. Not yet. But I could feel it. That awkward curiosity when someone starts to realize they were wrong about you. And they don't know how to say it. So they say nothing at all. I ran into Nathan once, the golden boy from Pinehurst, the one who stole my ideas and wore my ambition like a second skin. It was at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with brick walls, hanging bulbs, and overpriced espresso. He saw me before I saw him. "Ethan?" he asked, like I was a ghost. I just smiled. Small. Calm. The way you do when you no longer need anyone to shrink for you. He asked what I was working on these days. I told him, briefly. Mentioned a few clients, a few cities, a few contracts. He nodded. Too quickly. That's really great, man. Glad to see you're still doing the design thing. Still, as if I hadn't passed the milestone he never saw coming. I didn't correct him. Didn't need to. Because here's the thing about silence. It can be louder than any applause. It holds what people are too proud to say. I didn't believe in you. I didn't think you'd make it. I thought you'd come crawling back. But I hadn't. And I wouldn't. I left the cafe without another word. No bitterness. No revenge fantasy. Just a strange, quiet peace. Because I didn't need their praise. Their silence was enough. There's a moment when the struggle stops being survival and starts becoming something else entirely. For me, it began with a spreadsheet. One Sunday morning, I sat at my desk, just like I always did. Same mug, same playlist, same quiet. I wasn't thinking about success, I was thinking about invoices. But when I opened the file and actually looked, the number at the bottom hit me like a wave. $132,800. That was how much I'd brought in over the last 12 months. Me, alone. No team, no office, no degree from some elite school. Just grit, skill, and time. I stared at that number for 10 minutes. Didn't feel real. A year ago, I couldn't afford groceries without checking my balance. Now I was making more than people who once told me to be realistic. And the craziest part? It didn't stop there. 2 weeks later, I landed my first $10,000 contract. A startup in Austin. They wanted full brand development and a website. I sent the proposal. They signed in 24 hours. No haggling. No, can you knock it down a little? Just, looks great. Let's do it. That was the moment I realized the numbers were about to get stupid. And they did. Referrals turned into partnerships. Partnerships turned into retainers. I raised my rates. Again. Clients didn't flinch. In fact, something strange happened. The more I charged, the more I was respected. Because I wasn't just offering design anymore. I was offering vision, strategy, authority. 1 month, I cleared $18,000. Another, $22,400. I'd built something real, something mine. No loans, no investors, no safety net. Just a guy with a laptop who refused to quit. I moved into a better apartment, got health insurance, hired an assistant, part-time, remote, but still, an assistant. I didn't post about it, didn't brag, didn't inspire. I just worked, focused, grateful. But deep down, I knew I was no longer trying to prove them wrong. Now, I was just proving myself right. It wasn't planned. I didn't wake up one day and decide, today, I confront the past. But life has a way of circling back, especially when you've built something that speaks for itself. An old mentor invited me to speak on a creative leadership panel downtown. I almost declined. Too busy, too far, too pointless. But something in me said yes. Maybe I needed to see it. Not for revenge, not for ego, but for closure. The event was held in a glass-walled conference space. Ironically, inside the very building where Pinehurst and Lennox had their offices. When I walked in, no one recognized me at first. I wore no badge of success, no designer label, no entourage, just confidence, the kind you don't have to perform. The panel was fine, insightful, respectful. I shared how I built my solo practice, how I scaled without investors, how boundaries saved my business. The audience took notes, asked questions. Some even lined up to shake my hand after. And then, I saw Mark, the creative director, the one who once told me there's no room for ego, right before presenting my work as his own. He looked older, Not bad, just tired. He waited until the crowd thinned out before walking over. "Ethan," he said, extending a hand. That was impressive. I shook it. Firm. Polite. "I've seen your work floating around," he continued. "You've done well for yourself." There was a pause, the kind where truth tries to find a way out. Then, "Listen, I know things ended a little rough. You were always talented. We just didn't always see it at the time." That was the apology. Not quite spoken, but there. And that was enough. I nodded. No bitterness, no smile. "Thanks," I said. "I know." A week later, a recruiter from Pinehurst emailed me. Subject line, consulting opportunity. "Let's discuss." I read it twice, then archived it. Not out of spite, but because I'd already arrived, without their approval. I'd gone back. Not as the intern or the guy begging to be noticed, but as someone who didn't need the room to validate him anymore. And when you return with nothing to prove, you realize you never needed them to begin with. It started slowly. A comment here. A like there. People I hadn't spoken to in years, names I barely remembered, suddenly appearing in my notifications. "Love your work, man. Congrats on the growth. Would love to catch up sometime." At first, I thought nothing of it. The internet is noisy. People come and go. But then it turned into something else. The messages started pouring in. Some were subtle. "Hey, just wondering if you're open for a quick chat about branding." Others were more direct. "We've got a product launch and could use someone with your expertise." A few didn't bother hiding the shift at all. "I always knew you had something. Let's collaborate." They didn't know I remembered. The silences, the mockery, the way they used to treat my ambition like a punchline. Now? Suddenly, I was a visionary. One of them, a former classmate who once told me I didn't have the look for big clients, sent me a DM that simply read, "Hey bro, quick question. What's your rate for startup consulting?" I didn't even answer. Not because I was petty, but because I didn't have time to answer every ghost that came knocking. I had clients now, real ones, founders, CEOs investors, people who saw the value before the glow-up. I used to check my inbox, hoping someone would believe in me. Now I checked it to filter through demand. Funny how that works. But I'll be honest, there was one message that stopped me cold. "Nathan. Ethan, I'm launching something new. I could really use your eye on the branding. Would love to hire you for a consult." Hire me. That word hit different. The same guy who once pitched my work as his own, now asking for my opinion, my expertise, my name on his deck. I didn't gloat, didn't even reply at first. But a few days later, I sent a short message. "Appreciate you reaching out. My current consulting rate starts at $500 per hour. Let me know if that works." He never replied, but I didn't need him to. Because the silence this time, it didn't hurt. It validated everything. There's a kind of silence that stings. The kind I knew too well when I walked out of that boardroom years ago. But then there's another kind. The kind I live in now. The kind that tastes like peace. I wake up when I want. No alarm, no rush, no inbox full of passive-aggressive circling backs. Just light through the windows, coffee that doesn't have to be gulped, and a calendar I control. The business runs smooth, not flashy, not viral, but steady. Clients come through referrals now. People respect my time because I taught them how to, and I only say yes when I mean it. I've hired a small team, 2 designers, 1 project manager, all remote, all brilliant. I pay them well, listen when they talk, and credit them openly. because I remember what it felt like to be overlooked. Sometimes I get asked to speak on panels, podcasts, guest columns. People say things like, "Ethan, you've built something special. What's your secret?" And I always smile, because the secret isn't a hack. It's not about viral growth or 10-step formulas. It's this: I didn't quit. Even when quitting felt easier. Even when no one believed. Even when I didn't believe. The rest came later. And now, years later, I still think about that laugh. That sharp, dismissive sound as I walked away from the job that almost broke me. It used to haunt me. Now, it makes me smile. 'Cause I know the truth. They were never laughing at me. They were laughing to protect themselves from the part of them that knew they'd never dare to do what I did. I took the risk, ate the dirt, built the thing, and now I sit in the kind of silence they'll never understand. Not because it's lonely, but because it's mine. So yes, now I'm the one laughing, but not loud, just soft, at peace, in the kind of quiet that only comes when you've already won.